Dr. Elena Carr had always believed that science could explain everything, but tonight she was about to face something that would stretch her understanding beyond anything she had ever imagined. She worked late in her laboratory, the soft hum of machinery and the flickering of fluorescent lights filling the quiet room. On the polished metal counters lay devices that hummed with energy, screens displaying graphs and readings that only she could understand. Her passion was xenobiology, the study of life beyond Earth, and she had dedicated her life to uncovering secrets of other worlds, even though most of humanity doubted whether aliens existed at all. Elena was tired, but her mind refused to rest. She adjusted her glasses and leaned over a microscope, examining a sample of genetically modified algae. It was not particularly exciting in itself, but it was part of a larger experiment she had been working on, a system that could manipulate energy in living cells, theoretically allowing organisms to adapt to extreme environments. She sighed. Sometimes she wondered if she had spent years chasing impossible dreams. Then, without warning, a sudden shift in the air made her stop. The hum of her equipment changed pitch, vibrating against the floor beneath her feet. The room grew warmer, and the lights flickered violently before the lab was bathed in a bright, golden glow. Elena squinted, her heart racing. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy, frozen in place. A shape began to form in the center of the lab. At first, it was only a shimmer, like heat waves rising from a desert road. Then the shimmer solidified into something incredible. A dragon. Elena's mind struggled to process what she was seeing. It was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Its scales glimmered with a golden hue that seemed to hold light inside them. Its eyes were deep and intelligent, filled with a knowing that transcended human understanding. The creature lowered its massive head, nostrils flaring, wings tucked gracefully along its sides. Elena blinked several times, thinking she might be dreaming. But the scent of ozone and the faint smoke from its nostrils made her realize this was real. You are real," she whispered, barely daring to breathe. The dragon tilted its head, studying her as though it expected a response. Then, to her astonishment, it spoke, not with sound, but with a voice that resonated in her mind, clear and commanding. "Human," it said. "We need your help." Elena stumbled back, gripping a table for support. She had read about telepathy in other species, but never in a creature like this, and never had she imagined a dragon speaking directly into her mind. You need help?" she stammered, unsure if she should panic or try to reason with it. "Yes," the dragon replied. "Our world is dying, and energy corruption spreads, consuming everything. We cannot stop it with magic alone. We need your knowledge, your technology." Elena swallowed hard. It was impossible, she thought. Dragons were myths, and yet here they were, real, intelligent, and speaking to her. She looked around, almost expecting a hidden camera crew to appear and announce this was a hoax. But there was nothing, just her lab and the dragon. I don't understand," she said slowly. "Why come to me?" The dragon's gaze softened, as if it had expected her doubt. "We sought many species. None could understand the problem. None could offer a solution. But humans, your minds are unlike any others. Your species has adaptability, creativity, courage. You think beyond instinct. You may help us survive." Elena felt a mixture of awe and fear. To be asked to help an entire species, creatures of legend, was beyond anything she had ever imagined. And yet, a part of her, a deep, persistent curiosity, fueled a spark of excitement. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'll help. But I need to know everything. Show me your world, your problem, everything I need to understand." The dragon lowered its massive wing and unfurled a scroll of shimmering energy. It was not paper. Yet it contained symbols and images that Elena somehow could comprehend. Scenes of a planet bathed in golden light, forests filled with enormous creatures, cities of organic structures growing like trees. And then, the corruption. Black tendrils of energy spreading across the land, consuming life and leaving barren wastelands in their path. Elena studied the images, her mind racing. This is bad, she murmured. If it spreads to your population, it could destroy everything, but maybe we can stabilize it. I need samples, data, anything I can study. The dragon nodded, and suddenly the air shimmered again. In the center of the lab, a sphere of light appeared, containing a small portion of the dragon's energy. Elena reached out cautiously, letting her fingers hover above it. It pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and alive. She could feel the energy vibrating against her skin, as if it were trying to communicate with her directly. "This is incredible," she whispered. "I've never felt anything like it. If I can analyze this, maybe I can, I don't know, find a solution." The dragon inclined its head. "We do not ask for miracles. We ask for your wisdom, for your understanding." Elena spent the rest of the night in a whirlwind of activity. She connected the energy sphere to her machines, running tests, measuring fluctuations, and taking notes. She discovered that the energy had a frequency, a resonance that could be influenced. It was alive, intelligent in its own way, but vulnerable. If she could find the right pattern, the energy could be stabilized. Hours passed, and the dragons remained patient, hovering or sitting quietly, observing her work. She spoke to them occasionally, asking questions, making hypotheses, sharing her thoughts. In return, they shared insights about their world, their species, and the history of their civilization. Elena realized that dragons were not just magical creatures. They were scientists, explorers, and philosophers in their own right. By dawn, Elena felt both exhausted and exhilarated. She had never worked so intensely, and yet she had learned more in one night than in her entire career. And the dragons, once feared creatures of myth, were beginning to see humans differently. They had expected a timid, fearful species, but instead, they found someone who could analyze, reason, and innovate in ways they had never seen. One of the dragons, a silver-scaled female with eyes like molten gold, lowered her head to Elena's level. "Human," she said in her mind. "We expected fear, hesitation, perhaps even betrayal. But you are remarkable. Your mind is a force of its own. Perhaps our species underestimated humans." Elena felt a flush of pride, though she tried to remain humble. "I just do what I can. If we work together, maybe we can save your world." The dragon made a sound like a soft roar, almost like a laugh. "Yes. Together, we may achieve what neither of us could alone." But even as hope grew, Elena felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Saving an entire species was no small task. The energy she was working with was powerful and unpredictable. One wrong calculation, one misstep, and disaster could strike, not just for the dragons, but for Earth as well. She took a deep breath and focused on the data, her mind sharpening with every passing minute. This was a challenge unlike any she had ever faced. It required courage, intelligence, and creativity beyond ordinary limits. And for the first time, she felt truly alive, knowing that her choices could make a difference in a story far larger than herself. As the sun rose, painting the lab in golden light, Elena looked at the dragons and saw trust in their eyes. They had come to her, expecting perhaps arrogance or weakness. Instead, they found a human who could think, who could reason, who could stand with them as an equal. And she, in turn, found herself standing at the threshold of something incredible, a partnership that could change the fate of worlds. For the dragons, this was unexpected. For Elena, it was the beginning of a journey that would test everything she knew about life, science, and courage. The night had passed, but a new day was just beginning, a day where human ingenuity and dragon power would collide in ways the universe had never seen before. And so Dr. Elena Carr set to work, unaware that the choices she would make in the coming days would not only define her own life, but could reshape the destiny of an entire species, and perhaps the future of humanity itself. The dragons watched her with a mixture of awe and curiosity, their ancient hearts slowly learning to trust a human. They had expected desperation or fear. They had expected hesitation. But what they saw instead was brilliance, courage, and the unyielding determination of a species that could rise to challenges even they could not imagine. And in that quiet laboratory, where light shimmered off scales and metal alike, a bond was forged, one that would carry them through trials beyond comprehension and reveal the unexpected strength that lay in the heart of humanity. Elena's days became a blur of experiments, calculations, and careful observation. The dragons stayed with her, watching as she moved among machines and glowing energy spheres. They were patient, but Elena could sense their anxiety. Each day, the corruption in their world's energy became more urgent. Messages from their home arrived through shimmering portals, showing landscapes turning black and barren, creatures collapsing under a strange sickness, and entire cities vanishing into nothingness. Time was running out. Elena realized she could not treat the dragon's problem like a normal scientific experiment. This was living energy, alive and unpredictable. One mistake could harm them, or even destroy the delicate balance that kept their species alive. She had to think differently, combining human technology with the dragon's innate energy patterns. "Human," said the silver-scaled dragon she had begun calling Lyria. "We fear that the corruption spreads faster than you can measure it. If it reaches the central nexus, all is lost." Elena nodded, studying the readings on her monitor. "I know, but I think I see a pattern. The corruption isn't random. It has a rhythm. If I can match that rhythm with a stabilizing resonance, maybe we can stop it from spreading." The other dragons murmured in agreement, though some were skeptical. They had lived for thousands of years, and even they had never encountered a problem like this. Yet Elena's mind, with its human creativity and logic, was beginning to give them hope. She worked tirelessly, often forgetting to eat or sleep. Each day brought new challenges. The energy responded differently to her machines, sometimes flaring uncontrollably, sometimes fading too quickly to measure. And the dragons, though patient, occasionally grew restless. One morning, as Elena adjusted the settings on her devices, a young dragon named Zephyr snapped his wings in frustration. "This is too slow," he said, his voice sharp in Elena's mind. "We are losing too much time. Perhaps your species is not quick enough to save us." Elena froze, feeling a surge of irritation. "I am doing everything I can. I'm analyzing, testing, learning. This isn't simple. You can't just expect instant results." Zephyr tilted his head, his golden eyes narrowing. "Humans are clever. But sometimes cleverness is not enough. You lack our experience." Lyria intervened, her tone calm and commanding. "Zephyr, remember that human ingenuity is different from our experience. Do not underestimate her. We must trust her methods." Elena exhaled, realizing that the dragon's pride was as much a challenge as the energy itself. They had lived for centuries, and accepting help from humans was not easy for them. But slowly, she began to win their trust. She explained each step she took, showing them how her machines amplified the dragon's energy frequencies, how she analyzed the corrupting patterns, and how small adjustments could stabilize them temporarily. After weeks of tireless work, she achieved her first breakthrough. by combining a human-made resonance amplifier with the natural energy flow of the dragons, she was able to stabilize a small area of corruption in a controlled environment. The black tendrils of energy shrank, and for the first time, the dragons saw hope that their world might survive. "This is remarkable," said Lyria, her voice filled with awe. "You have done what none of our wisest could. Your species, your mind. It is unlike anything we expected." Elena smiled, though exhaustion weighed heavily on her. "I just applied logic and observation. The real work comes next. We have to scale this up. We have to stop the corruption at its source." And that was when the problems grew worse. Human authorities had begun to notice the strange energy fluctuations emanating from Elena's lab. Reports of unusual electromagnetic activity, unexplained light bursts, and strange readings from satellites triggered the interest of a government agency. Agents arrived at the lab demanding access, and Elena realized that her secret was no longer safe. They feared what they did not understand, seeing dragons and alien energy as threats to national security. "This is complicated," said Elena, her mind racing. "If they capture the dragons, they could experiment on them. They might even make the corruption worse." Zephyr snorted. "Then perhaps your species is not ready for cooperation. You call yourselves intelligent, yet you allow fear to guide you." Elena glared at him. "Not all humans are like that. And right now we need to act quickly. If we don't move the dragons, their homeworld will be lost, and then it won't matter what the humans do here." Lyria nodded. "We will trust you, Elena. Lead the way." With the dragons following her instructions, Elena devised a plan. Using a combination of human engineering and dragon energy, they created a hybrid transport system capable of moving the dragons and the equipment to a remote testing site in orbit around Earth. The journey would be dangerous, but it was the only way to continue their work without interference. The night before departure, Elena sat with the dragons, watching the stars outside her lab. She felt a strange sense of peace, despite the pressure of what lay ahead. "You humans are curious," said Lyria. "You ask questions, you test, you observe. You do not rely on instinct alone. This is what makes you unique. Perhaps your species is capable of more than we imagined." Elena chuckled softly. "And perhaps dragons are capable of more than humans ever believed. We're learning from each other, aren't we?" "Yes," Lyria replied. "Together we may achieve what neither of us could alone." The next day, the plan was put into motion. The dragons, enormous and powerful, moved gracefully through the city at night, guided by Elena's precise instructions. Energy fields projected from her machines shielded them from detection as they reached the launch site. One by one, they stepped into the hybrid transport chamber, a combination of human metalwork and dragon energy conduits. As the engines powered up, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Elena monitored the readings, adjusting controls with steady hands, her mind focused entirely on the task. The chamber lifted slowly, then surged upward, leaving Earth behind. Outside the window, the blue planet grew smaller, and the black void of space stretched endlessly. In orbit, they found a stable location above Earth, a platform built specifically to handle the delicate experiments necessary to stabilize the dragon's home energy. Here, Elena had complete control, and the dragons could focus without fear of interference. However, even in orbit, the challenges continued. The corruption was spreading faster than expected, and one of the dragons, an older male named Theros, began to show signs of distress. His energy pulses were irregular, and he sometimes trembled, his scales dimming as if the corruption had touched him directly. "Elena," Lyria said urgently, "he is being affected. We cannot wait. The main nexus must be addressed now, or all may be lost." Elena studied the readings. She realized that to stabilize the nexus, She would need to synchronize all the dragon's energy flows, amplifying her human-made resonance device to a level she had never attempted. It was risky. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the backlash could destroy the chamber, or worse. "I understand," she said. "We'll do it together. I'll guide the resonance, and you will amplify it with your natural energy. If we succeed, the corruption can be contained." The dragons gathered around her device, their massive forms filling the chamber. Elena activated the resonance amplifier, feeling the hum of energy vibrate through her hands, her body, her mind. She focused on the patterns she had studied, channeling them precisely, while the dragons added their power, their pulses syncing with hers. At first, it seemed to fail. The corruption flickered violently, tendrils of dark energy lashing outward. Theros groaned, his body shaking. Elena's heart pounded in her chest. She adjusted the frequency, trying to match the energy flow more accurately. The dragons responded instantly, changing their energy output, creating a delicate balance that was both terrifying and beautiful. Slowly, the dark tendrils began to shrink. The energy stabilized, the pulse of corruption weakening. Tharos's trembling subsided, and his scales regained their glow. Elena exhaled in relief, though her muscles ached and her mind was exhausted. Lyria's voice filled her mind, soft but filled with pride. "You have done it, human. You have done what none of us thought possible. Your courage, your mind. It has saved us, even if only temporarily." Elena smiled weakly. "We're not done yet. But it's a start." Zephyr, who had been skeptical from the beginning, looked at her with a new respect. "Perhaps humans are more capable than we assumed. Your species, your mind. It is a force." The dragons had come seeking help, expecting perhaps a simple solution, or maybe even failure. Instead, they had found a human who could match their power with intelligence, patience, and courage. They had underestimated her species, and now they realized that humans were capable of far more than anyone, dragon or human, had expected. Elena knew there was still work to do. The main nexus of corruption remained dangerous, and scaling the solution to their entire world would be an enormous task. But she had proven something to the dragons, and to herself. Humans could stand alongside the greatest beings in the universe, not just as assistants, but as equals in intelligence, strategy, and courage. And as the stars stretched endlessly around them, Elena felt a quiet determination settle in her heart. This was just the beginning. Together, humans and dragons could face the challenges ahead, even when the odds seemed impossible. And perhaps, just perhaps, the universe had underestimated humanity. Just as the dragons once had, the quiet of space was deceiving. From orbit, Earth seemed peaceful, its blue oceans and green continents stretching out below, but Elena knew that danger waited, not just for the dragons, but for their mission. While they had stabilized a small portion of the corruption, the main nexus remained unstable. Each day that passed allowed the energy to spread, consuming life on the dragon's world and potentially threatening others. Elena sat at her console, eyes scanning the readings. The data was complex, filled with fluctuating patterns and irregular energy spikes. She had never faced a challenge like this. The corruption was alive, reacting to attempts to control it. Every adjustment she made caused unpredictable ripples. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, heavier than the gravity she had left behind on Earth. The dragons hovered nearby, restless. Lyria's golden eyes studied the data alongside Elena, her mind connected to the resonance of the energy. Zephyr flitted from one console to another, impatient. Theros, still recovering, rested quietly, his massive wings folded. "Elena," Lyria said, her voice calm but urgent, "the corruption grows more aggressive. We sense it adapting. If we delay, we risk losing the main nexus entirely. Your device must reach full synchronization with all of us. Elena nodded, her fingers dancing over the controls. I know, but we must be careful. If the energy spikes too high, it could destroy the chamber, or worse. Just as she spoke, the monitors flashed red. An alert indicated a sudden surge in the corruption, far beyond the patterns she had predicted. The energy pulsed violently, reaching out as if aware of her presence. It's reacting, Elena whispered, heart pounding. It knows we're here, Zephyr growled, wings bristling. Then perhaps your species cannot control it. Perhaps you are too weak to save us. Elena shot him a glare. Strength is not just power. It's planning, patience, and adaptation. Watch and learn. She adjusted the frequency of her device, carefully matching it to the energy signature she had observed. The dragons joined, their pulses syncing with hers. For a moment, the surging corruption seemed to retreat, weakening slightly. Elena allowed herself a small sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. The chamber shook violently. Energy arcs leapt from the walls, crackling like miniature lightning storms. The dragons roared, wings beating to maintain balance. Tharos's trembling returned, his energy unstable. We cannot hold it, Zephyr shouted, panic lacing his mind. Elena gritted her teeth. We have to. Focus. Everyone, follow my lead. With a deep breath, she recalibrated the resonance amplifier. She pushed herself mentally, connecting with the dragon's energy flow as if she were part of them. She felt their power, their intelligence, their fear, and she channeled it through the device, blending human ingenuity with dragon instinct. The corruption pulsed, recoiling, then surged again. It was like wrestling a living storm. Elena's muscles ached, her mind screamed with concentration, but she refused to stop. She adjusted, recalculated, and pushed harder. The dragons followed her guidance perfectly, their synchronization improving with every heartbeat. Then a sudden shockwave of energy blasted through the chamber. The lights flickered and the walls vibrated violently. Elena was thrown to the floor, her arms scraping against the metal. Tharos let out a deep groan, struggling to maintain control. Zephyr's wings flared, trying to stabilize the chamber. Elena! Lyria called, her voice urgent but calm. You cannot continue like this alone. We must share the burden fully. Elena nodded weakly. I know. Let's combine everything. Our strength, your energy, my device, all together. The dragons gathered closer, their immense forms forming a circle around her machine. Elena activated the final sequence. Waves of synchronized energy pulsed outward, intertwining with the dragon's natural flow. The corruption flinched, recoiling from the combined force. It worked. For a moment. The black tendrils shrank, weakening as if the energy itself recognized the unity of human and dragon effort. Elena allowed herself a brief smile, but it vanished quickly as she saw a new problem arise. The surge had attracted attention, not from humans, but from a rival dragon faction. From the shadows of space, a fleet of shadowy dragon forms appeared, their scales dark and menacing. They had observed Elena's efforts and had interpreted them as a threat. They did not trust humans, and they did not understand her intentions. Who are they? Elena asked, alarmed. Lyria's voice was tense. They are a faction that believes humans cannot be trusted. They fear our cooperation will weaken us. They will attack if we do not prove our intentions. Elena realized that the mission had grown even more dangerous. Not only did she have to stabilize the corruption, but now she had to defend the dragons from their own kind. The shadow dragons surged forward, energy crackling along their scales. Zephyr bristled, wings flaring. They do not understand. We must defend ourselves. Elena stepped back from the console. We need strategy. We cannot fight blindly. Watch and follow my lead. Using her understanding of the energy patterns, Elena calculated a defensive pulse that could disrupt the attacking dragons without harming them. She activated the device, sending waves of calibrated energy outward. The shadow dragons recoiled, confused by the unexpected interference. Lyria spoke sharply. "Human, this is risky. One mistake and they could strike back with full force." "I know," Elena said, determination in her voice. "But they will understand we are not their enemies, if we act smartly." She continued to manipulate the resonance, combining it with the dragon's natural power. The attacking faction tried again, but Elena's calculations allowed the friendly dragons to counter, redirecting energy and forming protective barriers. The battle was tense, energy arcs flashing across the chamber, the roar of dragons echoing through the silent expanse of space. Hours passed. Elena's body ached, but her mind remained sharp. She adapted continuously, adjusting to the attacks, predicting movements, and using logic in tandem with the dragon's instincts. Slowly, the shadow dragons realized they could not overpower the unity of human and dragon. Their attacks weakened, hesitation replacing aggression. Finally, Lyria's voice cut through the tension. "They see your wisdom, human. They understand your intentions. The attack falters." Elena exhaled, relief flooding her. "Good. Now we focus on the main corruption. The Nexus cannot wait." The dragons regrouped, energy flowing steadily around Elena's machine. Theros, still recovering, contributed his power cautiously but effectively. Zephyr, once skeptical, followed her lead without question. Lyria guided them all, coordinating their pulses and maintaining balance. Elena adjusted the final sequence, preparing to push the resonance to its maximum capacity. This was the moment of truth, the point where human ingenuity and dragon instinct would either succeed or fail. As she activated the device, the chamber filled with a brilliant light. Energy arcs danced across the walls, crackling with controlled intensity. The dragon's pulses synchronized perfectly with Elena's calculations. For a moment, it felt as if the universe itself held its breath. Then, slowly, the black tendrils of corruption began to shrink. They dissolved into harmless energy, absorbed by the resonance field. The main nexus stabilized, its chaotic energy now harmonized with the combined efforts of human and dragon. Elena's knees shook from the intensity, but she smiled weakly. "We did it. We really did it." Lyria lowered her massive head, eyes glimmering with pride. "You have proven your worth, human. Not only to us, but to all who doubted your species. Your mind, courage, and patience have saved us." Zephyr, who had challenged her every step, finally approached. "I underestimated you. Humans are not as weak as I believed. Your mind, it is a force that even we cannot ignore." Theros's deep voice rumbled, steady and calm. "The corruption is halted thanks to her. She has earned our respect and perhaps a place among us as a true ally." Elena exhaled, exhaustion finally catching up to her. She had pushed herself further than ever before, faced danger beyond imagination, and guided creatures of legend through a perilous crisis. And yet, she had succeeded. The shadow dragons, now calm and observing, approached cautiously. Lyria spoke to them, explaining Elena's intentions, her calculations, and the unity that had saved them all. Slowly, the rival faction began to understand. Their hostility softened, replaced by cautious respect. Elena realized that this was more than just a victory over corruption. It was a victory of understanding, trust, and cooperation. Dragons, ancient and proud, had come expecting humans to fail, to be weak, or to falter. Instead, they had found a species capable of reasoning, strategy, and bravery on a scale even they had not imagined. As the chamber settled into quiet, Elena allowed herself a rare moment of rest. She looked around at the dragons, Lyria, Zephyr, Theros, and felt a profound connection. They were no longer merely subjects or clients. They were allies, partners, and friends. Together, they had faced a threat that could have destroyed entire worlds, and together, they had overcome it. Yet Elena knew this was only the beginning. The corruption was gone for now, but her work was far from complete. Scaling the solution to the dragon's entire world would require more study, more experiments, and more courage. And the challenges she had faced, attacks, skepticism, unpredictable energy, were reminders that the universe was full of dangers she could not yet foresee. But she also knew one thing with certainty: humanity had proven itself. Dragons, beings who had lived for millennia and considered themselves the wisest in the universe, had come seeking help and found not weakness, but strength. They had found intelligence, creativity, courage, and determination. And Elena Carr, a human, had led them through the storm. Elena floated in the observation chamber of the orbital platform, her mind still racing even after the battle with the corruption. The dragons were calm now, hovering nearby, but she knew that the main challenge was not over. The stabilization they had achieved in Part 3 was only temporary. To save the dragon's homeworld completely, she had to synchronize the entire planetary energy nexus, a task that was more dangerous than anything she had faced so far. "This is it," Lyria said, her voice clear in Elena's mind. "The final step. If we fail now, the corruption will return stronger than before. You must be ready to connect directly." Elena swallowed, her stomach tightening. "I know. I've prepared everything. I've mapped the energy flows, calculated resonance patterns, and designed a failsafe. But I'll need to place myself at the center of the nexus. It will be intense." Theros, the older dragon, lowered his massive head. "Human, the risk is great. You will be exposed to the full force of the energy. Are you certain you can handle it?" Elena met his gaze, determination burning in her eyes. "I have no choice. If not me, then who? I've already seen what humans are capable of. I won't fail now." Zephyr, who had been skeptical from the beginning, hesitated but nodded. "Then we stand with you. Our strength and energy will support you. Together, we can finish this." The dragons and Elena prepared for the final sequence. The orbital platform glowed with energy as machines and dragons aligned their pulses. Elena activated the resonance amplifier and felt the energy flow into her hands, through her arms, and into her mind. The connection was unlike anything she had experienced. The corruption writhed like a living shadow, resisting, testing her. "Elena," Lyria warned. "Focus! Do not let it overwhelm you." Elena took a deep breath, centering herself. She reached out with her mind and heart, connecting to the energy of each dragon, synchronizing her thoughts with theirs. She felt their power and wisdom flowing into her, merging with her own human intelligence. The orbital platform vibrated with energy, light arcing across the walls. The corruption fought back. Tendrils of dark energy lashed out, attempting to break the connection. Elena felt heat surge through her body, a pressure that threatened to crush her mind. But she focused, guiding the flow, adjusting frequencies, and harmonizing patterns. Every calculation, every intuition, every insight she had gained in the past weeks mattered now. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "We can do this." The dragons pulsed in unison with her, amplifying her control, their golden and silver scales glowing with an intense, radiant light. The corruption shrieked in response, but slowly its tendrils began to weaken. Elena pushed harder, channeling courage and precision into every pulse. She could feel the energy of the planet itself responding, aligning with their combined effort. Then suddenly, a massive surge of energy hit her directly. She screamed as the force tried to tear her consciousness apart. Theros roared and flared his wings, stabilizing the field around her. Zephyr sent a focused pulse of energy to support her, while Lyria guided the synchronization, their combined power forming a protective cocoon. Elena gritted her teeth, refusing to give in to fear or pain. She thought of her world, the dragon's world, and everything at stake. She thought of the humans who doubted her, the dragons who had feared betrayal, and the bond they had built together. She focused on harmony, blending intellect and instinct, courage and strategy. Slowly, steadily, the corruption began to unravel. Light spread through the nexus, dissolving the dark tendrils. The shadows screamed and writhed, but the combined human-dragon energy was stronger. Elena could feel the corruption shrinking, weakening under their efforts. One final push, she thought. Just one final push, and it will be over. She poured every bit of her knowledge, every ounce of her courage into the energy field. The dragons matched her intensity, pulsing with power, their connection unwavering. The corruption recoiled, and then, with a final scream that echoed through the void, it vanished. The planetary nexus stabilized completely, glowing with pure, radiant energy. Elena collapsed to the floor, exhausted beyond words. The dragons gathered around her, their massive forms forming a protective circle. Theros lowered his head to her level. "You have done it, human. You have saved us all." Lyria's golden eyes shimmered. "We came to humans expecting weakness. We came expecting hesitation, perhaps failure. Instead, we found brilliance, courage, and determination beyond what we imagined. Your species, your mind, it has earned our respect." Zephyr, once so skeptical, now hovered close, eyes wide. "I underestimated you, Elena Carr. Your species may one day rival us in wisdom and strategy. I see now that humans are capable of greatness beyond our expectations." Elena smiled weakly, her body aching. "We all worked together. It wasn't just me. It was all of us, humans and dragons, using our strengths to achieve something greater than ourselves." The dragons nodded, understanding the truth in her words. For the first time, they saw humans not as fragile, limited beings, but as partners with potential, intelligence, and courage that could rival even the most ancient species. As the orbital platform settled into calm, Elena realized how far she had come. She had faced incomprehensible energy, skeptical dragons, and her own fears, and she had triumphed. She had proven that humans could stand alongside the greatest beings in the universe, not as servants or observers, but as equals, capable of innovation, courage, and wisdom. The dragons prepared to return to their homeworld. The portal shimmered, connecting the orbital platform to the vibrant lands that were slowly healing. Lyria turned to Elena, her voice filled with gratitude. "You have given us more than life, human. You have given us hope, and a new understanding of what your species can achieve." Elena felt a lump in her throat. I only did what I could. You trusted me, and we learned from each other. That's what made this possible." Theros nodded, his eyes filled with solemn respect. "You are welcome among our people, Elena Carr. When we return home, we will tell our young that a human helped save our species, and that humans are not to be underestimated." The portal shimmered, glowing brighter, and the dragons moved toward it. They paused one last time, their eyes meeting Elena's. Lyria spoke softly, her voice like a song in Elena's mind. "We came to you expecting one thing. We left learning that humans are capable of far more than we imagined. Never forget this, Elena Carr." With that, they disappeared through the portal, leaving Elena alone on the orbital platform. The silence that followed was profound, filled with the weight of accomplishment. She allowed herself to rest, looking out at the vastness of space, at Earth below, and at the distant stars. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The dragon's world was safe, at least for now. But more than that, a bond had been forged, a bond between species, born of trust, respect, and shared struggle. Humans had proven themselves worthy allies, capable of ingenuity, courage, and wisdom. Elena knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more discoveries, and perhaps more threats. But she was ready. She had seen what humans could achieve when they combined intellect with courage, strategy with creativity. And she had learned that even the most ancient and powerful beings could be inspired by human determination. Months passed, and the news of the dragon's return to their home world reached her. Through messages carried by the dragons themselves, Elena learned that their world was healing. Cities once threatened by the corruption were being restored, forests regrowing, and the creatures thriving once more. The dragons spoke of her often, praising her wisdom, bravery, and determination. Elena smiled as she read their messages. She had not only saved a species, but she had helped redefine humanity's place in the universe. The dragons had come to them expecting simple help, perhaps a quick solution. Instead, they had found something unexpected: human ingenuity, courage, and the capacity to rise to any challenge. As she stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars, she thought of the future. Humans and dragons now shared a bond that could change the course of interstellar history. Together, they could face threats that neither species could confront alone. Together, they could explore, discover, and protect life across the cosmos. Elena felt a quiet pride. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and incredible challenges. She had seen the very limits of her courage and intellect tested, and she had triumphed, not alone, but alongside creatures of legend who had learned to trust her, and through her, trust humanity itself. The universe was vast and filled with unknown dangers, but Elena knew this: humans were ready, humans were capable, and when dragons came to them expecting one thing, they had found something far greater: an equal, a partner, and perhaps a friend. And for Elena Carr, that knowledge was more powerful than any energy, more rewarding than any discovery. She had helped save a species, proved the worth of humanity, and glimpsed a future where the courage and intelligence of her people could shine among the stars. And in that knowledge she found peace, purpose, and hope.